connection.
No, well, I have it here too. So.
That's what I have in LA, and it pretty much sucks.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran, and of course, I'm joined this morning by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee, coming from Seattle. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. Wow, that was a total DJ introduction. Thank you very much.
Well, what it is I've had some coffee. I just came off a 10-day, after Thanksgiving, I did a 10-day, I'm on this thing called Purium, and so I do a 10-day dealio where you're essentially on almost like a juice diet. Lost about 9 pounds. And
awesome.
Yeah, and you don't have anything bad for you for 10 days, and then you come off, and then yesterday I had a cup of coffee, and today I've had one, and I like to just about jump out of my skin because it's like, I don't know, it's just good.
yeah, I've got coffee here too, so I'm totally with you.
I've just about killed a cup. I almost want another, but I'm maintaining. But they could care less. You guys care less whether or not we're drinking coffee or not. But hey, just want to let you know, Phil Nelson, we just talked to him. He's going to be on with us from Newtek. He's having some internet connection problems this morning. The good old intranets are, messing with us. So if he's going to join us when he gets up and running. But I guess we can spend a few minutes, Rob, this morning just kind of reminding folks a little bit about the show and talk about the upcoming schedule because it is going to be kind of crazy here over the holidays. So what's going on is you guys know that I go to Vegas every year for the Consumer Electronics Show. So it turns into pure mayhem. It already has, believe it or not. So Rob is not going to be available next Saturday. We're going to see how things go for 2 days after Christmas, so no promises, but I'm definitely out the 3rd and 10th of January, so we could, I hope we don't go this long. I mean, Rob and I were talking about maybe being able to record a couple of shows somewhere in between and then putting them up on show dates, but we'll let you know one way or another what the schedule is going to happen, but this is the CES event for me is, I guess I call it, Rob, the gift that keeps on giving all year, because it's just full of contacts and it feeds my other show, Geek News Central, of which I record my 1,000th episode this coming Monday.
Todd. That's amazing,
Is that
Todd.
crazy? Is that crazy number?
Yeah. It's just it's 10 years of cranking out shows. It's unbelievable.
The 10-year anniversary thing was big in October, but this 1,000 number just has been eluding me because I've had a couple of days off here and there, sure. And it's just like, wow. It really kind of hit me in the face. But the most important thing that came in the mail the other day, Rob, for a person that is a content creator going to a show where they're humping in a bunch of gear. Have you ever had challenges with parking at CES, Rob?
Not normally because I don't have a car when I'm there usually.
Right.
But I've ridden in the van with you going to CES before. So, yeah.
I have a gold lot parking pass.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yes, it is, and it's like people. It's as they say, gold lot. This thing is, probably worth more than its weight in gold, to be honest with you, from just the ability to kind of show up a little bit later and get parking. So, yeah. Hey, so, this is probably a good topic, though. Maybe we can fill some time. We can talk about what it takes to put on a show going to an event like CES. Now, to give you guys just a little background, 10 years ago, Andy McCaskey, which used to do SDR News, and I think he does periodically still, and I went to the Consumer Electronics Show for the very first time, and he and I walked around with a microphone, and I think we had some Marantz recorders, and we interviewed vendors there.
Yep.
And we realized that this was a big visual stimulation, and it was probably the genesis of why I started doing video for my show, but we decided right then and there we'd go back the following year with a video camera, and I did my first major investment. I bought a Pro HD camera the following summer, and when we went back to Vegas, it was actually to tape. We were still, the cameras in were all tape. And we went and did interviews, I mean, the traffic we got from that show talking about the new products that were coming out was incredible. And I think, in retrospect, follow-on years, we've done millions and millions and millions of views of those interviews. So this was content that we were creating outside our regular show. We would go to the event, interview people in our space, and it was like, at the time, maybe we'd do 100 interviews, and we'd come back and spend 2 weeks processing them and getting them up online and writing the articles. And then about 5 years ago, we really ramped it up. And there's a bunch of people that went with us. We had, we went with no budget, really. We had fans of the show that went as support, and we still have fans of the show that support us today at the event, come out and take time and help us with production and really this grassroots type of production system. And but it's grown. 5 years ago we started doing live. CEA recognized, we were putting out incredible amount of content. We were right up there with the big boys, producing 200 250 interviews. CNET was not putting out that many interviews. And what made it largely different was we were roaming the halls and we were talking to every 10x10 vendor that we thought was cool. And you were around for some of those days too, see what was going on.
Yep.
But it really boosted the show, and boosted our relationships with vendors. From your perspective, seeing the genesis of it and where it went, what's your kind of opinion on how things have progressed for our coverage at that type of event and others?
Well, I think what I kind of experienced. I went to Comdex back in the mid '90s and saw what was going on. Was trying to get a press pass to get into that event and got a press pass. But back then I had to show that I was writing articles for newspapers as well as doing my podcast radio show. So they, those organizers of those events back in those days didn't really care about online media stuff. It was still early for that. And then, you and I talked about it many times, trying to break in, right?
Yeah.
The podcasters and the online media folks breaking into Comdex or CES and things like that and trying to work through. And I think you've just kind of steadily chipped away at that right along with the growth of, new media. And now you're to a point where you're playing with, you're doing it, the equivalent of what, CBS or NBC would come in there and do, or, frankly, or even in, like an Engadget or any of those, but even back in those days, the early days of Engadget and those, they didn't even get press passes because they weren't considered to be press because they didn't write physical newspaper articles. So that's the game that I had to play in the early days was being on broadcast radio. That's all they cared about, or a newspaper, and I was doing that as well. So now you've fast forward to today, and you're like, you spent years doing live streaming. All day long for most of the CES shows, and I went out with Andy, and was his cameraman for a few days down there, trying to get that experience of what you guys had to go through to go around, and it was a lot of fun. It was also very challenging work. Walking that floor, trying to find, technology that's interesting, right, to cover, because there's a lot of crap there. There's a lot of, cell phone cases and a lot of, you have to go through so much stuff to find the nuggets, right? And that's where the work was. And so I totally appreciate and totally, am blown away by how many years that you guys actually plugged away at that. I was just down there helping out occasionally, but you guys were there every day, and it was just amazing. And I can totally understand why you're backing off on it a little bit, because it was like, it was taking years off your life, I think.
Well, and not only that, one of the reasons doing the live, when we went to start doing live in CES, was we could. we
Yeah.
finally had the tech to be able to do it. I mean, it's perfect timing because Phil Nelson has just joined us from Newtek. He's calling in. I think looks like you are up and running. Phil, we're just of course we'll do a formal introduction here in a second. We were just talking about the genesis and how the TPN TV network basically started in Vegas, walking the floor with a mic and a little handheld recorder, going to doing video and competing with the big guys, and now having a prime broadcast location right on, right there. We don't have the $250,000 or $500,000 budget of a Engadget or Gizmodo, but we're going in with enough gear to make it look like the output of the content is just as good. Or I gotta switch that back, just as good or better than the big boys. And and I wasn't. We hadn't quite got to the point in the conversation where I was going to talk about it, but we've been powering our CES presentations with Newtek since the beginning. I think we started with I think I hauled my broadcast unit down the first 2 years. Then I got an 850, and then an 865. So it's funny. We went from the broadcast unit to the big 850 to an 865, and now I think this year we're kind of weighing what we're going to do. I think we're actually going to be using a mini at the show. So it's kind of
Awesome.
we go from small to big, and now back to small because we can. And that's
That's the key. I mean, you don't want to take big gear, but
right.
you do when you have to. But if you can choose to have, if as long as the small gear is powerful enough, then everybody wants a smaller footprint. It's pretty cool time to be in this business.
Yeah, I was, and for those of you that don't know Phil, I'll just introduce. He's Philip Nelson from Newtek, and he's the official title, and I've got it on your lower third, is the Chief Relations Officer, which is the coolest title in the new media space. And but good morning, Phil. How are you? And
It's great to be here. It's nice when you get to make up your own title.
yeah, that's absolutely
is great.
true. I think the last time we interviewed you, you were in a hotel room. So I think we've got a. Well, I don't think your connection this morning was quite as good as your hotel room was, but at least you're back up and running. Thanks for joining us.
Time Warner went out on me this morning. It's like I'm getting ready to call you guys, and it's like internet crashes and burns. So I was on the line with support at Time Warner trying to get things back up and running. But I'm actually back in comfortable San Antonio, setting up for a holiday party behind me.
Oh, nice!
So, have a
Yeah.
little party at the house tonight.
Awesome. That's great.
So when you guys, I've been looking, and here's just give you a little discussion. I go to NAB every year, and I talk with vendors, and I'm like, please, 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 please make a unit, make a streaming box that is within the price range of the general new media guy, the guy that's going to go out and he's going to decide, all right, I want to do this, and I'm looking for a product, but crap, it's out of my price range. I got to build my own. So they buy a high-end computer, $2,000, $2,500, whatever it is, to get the computer they need to do what it needs to do. They go out and buy some cards, which is maybe another $1,000. They buy some software, which is another $1,000. They may have to buy a switcher or not. Maybe they can figure out how to do it in a keyboard, and they hodgepodge this thing together. And there are solutions that you can do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to naysay any of those other products. But by the time you get done, if you do it right and you get the camera hookups and everything, you've got $5,000-$6,000 into a setup. So
Yep.
when you guys announce the Mini that gives a content creator all the power and all the stuff that you guys have done for years, and I just, I'm going to take a shot. I don't know if you guys can see it. I mean, what's really amazing here is, let me see if I get the right camera. Oops, wrong one. So, here I've got in front of me, this big switcher. and I've got the audio recorder. I've got an interface over there that I can look and see how things are being switched. This is a beautiful setup. I love what I can do. Green screen if I want. I can do lower thirds. There's everything I can do under the sun. Even graphics roll-ins. This, if everything was pushed to the ultimate level that this system could do, I could be ESPN. It could look just like an ESPN production. Let's be honest. It could.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, the same TriCaster that you're using for your show is the same TriCaster that's being used by the NBA,
right?
By Fox Sports and every other network on the planet.
Yep.
So really, it is the same power. And when we designed the Mini, that was our goal, is to bring that power to anyone.
Yep.
And Newtek, that's always been our goal since the beginning. When Tim Jennison founded Newtek 29 years ago, he wanted to democratize television. And in 1990, we announced the video toaster, which is the first time you could really do television on a computer. But there was still a problem. There was a gatekeeper. I could now make a multi-camera television show on a computer in 1990, but now how do I get it out to the world? And so there was still the gatekeeper. You had to have a television network or public access or closed circuit television or videotapes that you mail out to people. And for the last 30 years almost, we have been trying to democratize TV and really allow anyone to make it. And with the TriCaster Mini, we really have achieved that goal, because we now have the power under the hood to make your show look as good as network television. And with the internet now, anyone can broadcast, and as long as they make a show that people want to watch, they can reach that audience. So it is a pretty cool time.
And for those of you, I showed this shot of this big, switching unit here in front of me. Obviously, very expensive. The 865 is full of power, but I don't want to at all negate what they have accomplished with the Mini, because they've essentially packaged, I don't know what percentage of features, and maybe, Phil, you can tell me, but you probably packaged 75 or 80% of all the features that are in the higher end machines, and maybe I'm even undervaluing that, into the Mini. So you basically have lower third capabilities. You can do video pre-rolls. You can do switching between 4 cameras. You have video outputs. You can send it to a projector screen. All the stuff in this cube, about the size of a lunchbox, right?
At Newtek, when we're designing our technology, some manufacturers say, what can I take out? We try to say, what can we include? How much can we pack into a technology for the price? And, the exciting thing is there's still, the Pro line of TriCasters, which are like the TriCaster 410 up to the 8000, and those have special form factors and features that high-end broadcasters need. But we've tried to pack as much of that horsepower into the Mini so that people that want to buy a system that's under $6,000 as the starting price can make a show that looks spectacular. And I don't really have a percentage of how much is identical, but we have the virtual sets, we have the holographic virtual sets, we do the animated transitions and two DDRs so you can play back video clips and buffers and things like that. I mean, it is an amazing tool set that is in that TriCaster Mini. And that's why we can't make them fast enough. We have sold them faster than we can make them, and we up our projections for the next 2 weeks and every 2 weeks we're selling more than we've predicted. It is a very, very hot item right now.
And if to give you guys some perspective, and Rob, what type of loads of stuff we humped to Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
In perspective, if I was to rebuild this studio, I might actually go with just the Mini, because there's some features I don't need. Now, I need a little more than 4 cameras, but there's some ways to work around that if you have to. But still, for the majority of folks, you can still bring in just like this, on the Mini, you can bring in a screen from another computer.
Yep. IVGA and network inputs. Yes.
And you can bring that right in and show it. And it's really pretty incredible what they accomplished. So I think what we should do is, we've talked about this. Let's talk just a little bit, Phil. Exactly what do they get in the box?
Well, as you're looking at the Mini on the screen, and that is the TriCaster Mini. There's two versions. There's one that's $69.95 that doesn't have the screen on the side, and then there's one that's $79.95 that has the screen on the side. Also, the entry-level Mini has about 15 hours of video storage, and the higher end unit has I think 45 hours of storage, so you get a lot more storage. But what comes in the box is a mouse, keyboard, the TriCaster Mini. There's also a little, it looks like a handle. I don't know if you've seen the video I shot of setting up the entire studio in under 5 minutes. But but it actually is a cable lock as well.
Oh.
Because one of the challenges with HDMI, which the Mini is HDMI, is they're not a locking connector. And so one of the things that scares people is, what if you're in the middle of a show and somebody trips over a cable and unplugs your camera? So we developed this thing that I call the handle, but it's actually, once your cables are plugged into the front of the Mini, you put this little cable lock on there, and it takes the pressure off the connector so that they're not going to accidentally come unplugged during a show. And it also includes some Velcro straps to actually strap your cables to that cable lock / handle. But and then all you need is a monitor, some cameras, an internet connection, and you have a television show.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I was wanting to understand is I understand from the box itself, you have a certain amount of time you can record in the box, but that doesn't preclude you from setting up external storage, right? Will it still record?
It has USB 3 on the back.
Okay.
Recording live to external storage is one of those features that's got an asterisk by it.
Uh-huh.
Your results will vary. So we recommend that you record directly to the internal drives and then just copy it out at the end of the show, just to make sure that your quality and the bandwidth of the drive, the speed of the drives, because we want to ensure quality. So you can do it and people do it, but what we recommend is that you record to the internal storage, and then at the end of the show, archive off your program to the external media.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, because it's all been optimized within the box itself.
It really has.
Yeah.
So Phil,
go ahead, Rob.
What are the typical buyers of the Mini? I mean, what kind of operations, what kind of situations? I can see it being something that's very appealing to companies that are doing consulting around mobile production and things like that, but what's the typical customer for this right now?
The hottest area for the TriCaster Mini right now is corporate, enterprise corporate sales, because TriCaster has done very well in the corporate market. In fact, 80 of the Fortune 100 companies are using TriCaster for streaming and video production. Mm-hmm. But there's so many other companies that know they need to communicate through video. Video is one of the fastest growing forms of communication in the history of mankind. If they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, how much is video worth? Yeah. And Newtek customers are producing over 250,000, I think it was 250,000 hours of video per month now. And so with the TriCaster Mini, those companies that can't afford or a television studio or don't have the infrastructure or the people to make video now can afford it. And so we're seeing a ton of interest from corporate media, because training is an area where we have a lot of success, because as companies become more remote and air travel becomes more of a headache, and companies grow, they want to not only train their employees but not have to fly them in. So if they could do a seminar in their corporate HQ and have people sitting in the room, 3 cameras with the TriCaster, all the remote employees watching live, because it can record, they're recording the training live to the hard drive. And so employees that may have been sick that day or future employees can now benefit from that training. Training, I think, is one of the hottest growth areas for TriCasters, and this Mini is really empowering that. But we're also seeing it go into just about every level of production, from high-end broadcasters that just want something that's more portable, all the way to schools that just need something that is very affordable but has the power of the Pro-line TriCasters.
Phil, is the screen that's on the Mini, is it a touch screen, or you still use a keyboard?
It is a keyboard and mouse. And what's cool about that screen is you can configure what's on that screen. In all of our ads, you see it as a program monitor. But the most useful use, I don't get to say that often, is you can make that your waveform monitor vectorscope. You can make that your show clock, so it'll have 2 clocks on the screen that show you your actual time and the show time. So 5 minutes till show time, or we're 5 minutes over. So it's actually a very handy screen, and it could just be an ISO camera if you want to be able to see your safety shot at all times, but you're looking at all of your screens on your TriCaster interface. You'll know that safety shot is good in case you have to dump out to that safety shot for an emergency.
I've got you. So it even got that feature into it too. Wow.
Oh yeah, it really. When I've been traveling the country doing demos for press and VIPs, have you guys seen my video of how to set up a television studio in under 5 minutes?
I don't.
Yeah, I saw it.
You did.
So, yeah.
You need to watch it. I come in with 2 bags, a backpack and a small bag, and I set up the TriCaster. I set up the monitor, I set up 2 cameras, I set up lights and a green screen in under 5 minutes. And so I've been traveling the country doing that demo for press, and it's funny, not only are the press excited about covering it, but every single one has said, I need this. And they're blown away by the power that is in that TriCaster Mini. They really are. Like, how can you do this? This is a game changer. And that's what Newtek does. We've done it over and over again. We create an industry and build it, and then we're always looking for new ways to change it.
So, Phil, are you supporting a USB 3 web camera type of cameras now in this?
No, it is HDMI or the cameras. It has
only?
4 HDMI inputs on the front. And then we also have a mic level 1/4 inch input on the front, and then a stereo 1/4 inch line level input on the front. And then the outputs are a headphone out, and then a 1/4 inch line level stereo feed out.
Gotcha.
Rob, I think the thing that for me, and this is the first time Newtek has came out with a product that has got HDMI in. Everything up to this point has been everything but. So, this is, one of the other appeals is because, as their little infographic shows on their website, you can come in with a webcam, with a GoPro, or you can come in with inexpensive, I call it a floor model video camera, all the way up to a pro camera, which, obviously what's kind of funny is, we're going to go to, I have a real nice XD cam camera that has SDI out. So we're actually going to go SDI to HDMI. We're going to have to put a converter in. It's usually been, sometimes the other way around.
Right.
So,
one thing that's really cool, though, about your setup with that is SDI cables can be run considerably longer than HDMI.
Right.
So if you're coming out of that camera HD SDI, your cabling is going to be a little easier.
Yeah.
But, one of the challenges for HDMI is cable cost. I was at Best Buy last night, and like an 8-foot HDMI cable was $40.
Yep.
And so one of the ways we've solved that problem is if you buy a TriCaster Mini, and you can only get this if you own a TriCaster Mini, but we sell a 4-cable kit. They're 4 100-foot HDMI cables for under $500.
And they've been optimized to be able to carry the signal.
Yeah, because you can't have just any off-the-shelf cable to run HDMI 100 feet.
Right.
And so, we tried to, eat the cost, for $500, having 4 100-foot HDMI cables is an amazing deal, and we know they work with the Mini, and so that anybody doing a broadcast, as long as they can stay under 100 feet, they're good to go.
Phil, what is the if someone's, what's the caution then if they are going to use their own cables? What's the distance? 10, 12, 15, 5?
Well, you get 100-foot HDMI cables, but it's just they're all over the place. So you just need to test.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is those tests. Saving a buck can be very expensive sometimes. So if you say I'm going to buy the cheapest HDMI 100-foot cable I can buy, maybe how many of those do you have to buy before you get ones that are gonna work? So that's why we went ahead and did all the headaches for the customer, and we said we're not gonna gouge people on the price on these cables. We just want them to have good quality cables so their shows look good, and so that's why we did it. But if you go find a good HDMI cable, more power to you,
Right.
and they're out there. It's just you may have to buy a bunch to get to the point where you find ones that are going to be reliable.
And luckily for us, I don't have to go 100 feet. I have to go about 10. So
Yeah, so that's easy.
yeah,
You can get I've used random HDMI cables. I mean, the demo kit that I've been carrying around uses a Canon Vixia camera, so I'm coming in HDMI there, and a GoPro Hero 3 through HDMI,
wow.
and it's been amazing.
And the GoPro cameras themselves put up pretty doggone nice video.
They really do.
Yeah.
If you just make sure you don't have the fisheye lens on it,
The
your
fisheye,
show's going to
yeah.
look good.
Yeah. And actually
Unless you're going for that fisheye look, but most people aren't.
And that actually might be a good opportunity to use one of those for like a camera shot, for a product shot or something like that. I could think of that as being, pretty handy from, if you're in a space issue and having that just in a location that's just pointing down at that way you're not messing your setup with a bunch of gear. That's been another problem going into a 10 by 20 booth. Now, luckily in the booth we have at CES, we are able to grow because there's no one around us, so we can actually make the booth bigger.
You're spilling into the aisle around you.
Yeah, well, we're kind of in a location where there's a big, anyway, we can make it bigger without affecting traffic flow, for a better word. And so it's never been an issue where we're at. But when you're in a constrained area, the placement of the gear and getting the cameras back far enough and all that stuff has always been, a little bit of a challenge in any type of setup when you're doing a live show. But it is cool to be able to walk into a place and set up easily. Now, another reason why we're switching up this year, Phil, is I spend about $3,000 for security at the Consumer Electronics Show every year. I go to NAB, it's about the same. Obviously, I only have to have one security guard in the booth at night, but still, when you've got, and in my case, we probably had $60,000 or $70,000 worth of gear in the booth, cameras, but probably more than that when you get done. This year, I said, I want to walk away every day from the show and leave just a couple of monitors with the security cables hooked up, and we'll stuff the keyboards and stuff into some rollaway boxes, and we're going to just roll out. Every day after the show, we're not going to leave the booth all set up with all this gear, and we wouldn't be able to do that if I was taking the, my full rig. If I was taking the 865, that would not happen.
But you might be able to do that with this
Oh,
TriCaster Mini.
yeah,
You could pack it out of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I literally carry I've carried the TriCaster Mini in a backpack as carry-on luggage back and forth from coast to coast of the United States as we got ready to launch it, doing demos.
Yeah.
It is truly one of the most exciting products that I've been involved with at Newtek, because when we launched TriCaster in 2005, it was ultra portable, but we just didn't have the power at that time. But now the power's there, we've got the portability, the price is right, and it is magical to be able to walk up to airport security and just put your entire TV studio on the X-ray belt.
Yeah. And, for me, and we were talking about, before you came on, a little bit about the process we went through. One of my high stress points has always been booth security, and you don't necessarily going to be dealing with that in a corporate situation. Maybe you are, but for us, I'm like, my God, if people walk by and they so easily grab something off a table and roll. You know how it is.
Yeah.
It's bad at these trade shows. So for me to be able to just pack up and leave, I'll be able to sleep a lot better at night knowing that where the gear is. It's with me in a hotel room. Now, not necessarily is that any more secure, but I have a little more peace of mind that they're going to have to break the hotel room door down to get.
You do have a door with a lock on it. So.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to this infographic that you guys have put up. So, and this is really, man, it's just as simple as it gets. We understand the inputs. I did want to ask you, so are you recommending then that people onboard the video clips and sound files through the stick, or do you just map a stick with all that stuff on?
I always recommend importing your videos to the hard drive.
Yep.
Because it removes a variable for problems.
Yep.
Because when you import a video into the TriCaster, when you're setting up your show, it looks at that video clip and says, can I play this? And if the answer is no, it transcodes it automatically for you so that when you get ready to run your show, it's gonna play back smoothly. And if you're just randomly bringing stuff in off a drive while you're live like that, you can, but your results will vary. So, the TriCaster gives you flexibility to try things, but if you want it to be guaranteed to work, import it before the show, make sure it's in your DDR off of the internal hard drive.
And I just saw something on this infographic that made me go, It says PC or Mac display for screen sharing. So are you having people plug the Mac or a PC into the HDMI port as a second monitor?
No, it's through our IVGA
Okay.
technology. So if you have IVGA, you can send your Mac screen, your PowerPoint, your Keynote into the TriCaster as a source, and that same technology can come in via AirPlay. So if you have a tablet, you can AirPlay into the TriCaster as well. So it's just, we've given people ways to get more information and more content into the TriCaster. So back to your question earlier about bringing in those USB 3 cameras, you could have that on a laptop and then have that laptop full screen and IVGA running, and that could be coming in through IVGA with audio. So it gives you some choices, but you can't just plug USB 3 cameras into the back of the TriCaster and get them in. You would have to come in through IVGA, but it would work.
Could you use a HDMI out of a laptop into the Mini?
That could work too. If you have an HDMI source, your results will vary because on some laptops there's DRM stuff and there's so.
Yep.
I highly recommend if you have an idea like that, try it before and then be pleasantly surprised if it works perfectly.
Right.
The cool thing is we give you HDMI inputs, and if they're compliant HDMI inputs and they're not DRM locked and all that, they should work.
Okay.
So Todd, it sounds like it's possible to definitely pull in, a Skype connection, into this through those two technologies potentially, it sounds like.
Well, have you guys seen the talk show product that we announced?
Yeah, we actually, I think, didn't we have? Yeah, we haven't. I think we talked to you before about that product when it came out. Yeah.
So the talk show, what's cool about talk show is it's a professional Skype interface for broadcasters. You don't have to have a TriCaster to use it, but if you do have a TriCaster, our talk show product will actually send out an IVGA output, so you're not taking up one of your live camera inputs, and it'll come in through your network inputs, so that you could have two talk shows feeding two guests into a TriCaster Mini, giving you 4 live cameras and then 2 Skype guests.
How many IVGA inputs does the Mini take? Will it take 1 or it'll take 2? So that will allow
2 network inputs. So that could be from IVGA or AirPlay or talk show, or even from our CG software, live text, or from an external character generator like a Chiron or a Chiron IP, which supports our technology, or the VizRT system. So if you have high-end character generators, those can feed into that, that Mini, which is crazy that you're going to spend a CG that's worth 4 or 5 times as much as your entire studio. But the cool thing is we give people options.
Now, Rob, just so you're up to speed and understand it, so the audience also knows as well, when we're doing our shows, like today, I've already pre-generated the lower thirds. They are, they're sitting. I can just bring them up just like that with a click of a button. I can even drop in, obviously, the show logo on the screen. With the live text, You got the guy that's doing the management of the show. He's doing the switching. He's making sure everything's good. He's bringing up lower thirds. But oftentimes, in a dynamic environment, when you have people coming in and you're doing multiple interviews, it's hard for that guy that's sitting at the console to maybe update a lower third. He could do it, but it takes away from the production of the show. So we usually have a second guy that's on another laptop who's queuing up maybe the company's webpage and updating a lower third to send via live text over so that we can put the proper lower third for the guy that just walked on the set 2 minutes ago. So it really gives you the ability to have a very dynamic production with obviously a very small form factor. Now the one guy could do it, but he is going to be hustling, and he's going to be busy. Now if you've got enough time to prep ahead of time, you know who all your guests are, you can obviously pre-build those lower thirds. One thing I've always, and I hope that you can take this back to Newtek, Phil, is one thing I've always wanted was the ability to build it could be as simple in a text file, a list of names, and have all, so we could just put the name in, save that, and then from the lower third, have the lower third that would be able to grab a name in that list and put it on. It would be I think that would be such a fantastic addition to be able to dynamically update lower thirds, and it would make a single guy doing a show a lot easier. It could be
guess what? I'm glad you're sitting down because we can do that.
When did that get introduced?
I like
it's only available in the Mini. Yeah.
Now, how much would you pay? No. Using live text, our remote CG software.
Yeah.
We have a technology in there called Data Link.
Okay.
And so what that can do is it can link and bring in data from various sources, SQL databases, from scoreboards and clocks and stadiums.
Okay.
But so like Fox News, if you watch foxnews.com/live, that's what they're using. Basically, the producer types everybody's name for an hour block into a spreadsheet. And then when the operator calls up the lower third for segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, segment 4, it's already populated with all of their names.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's
dynamically mapping is what it's doing.
It's pulling in from a field. So if I say I'm doing a show and here's block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, and your graphics, you just load in the graphics, and then if you're linking it to the spreadsheet through Data Link, then it's automatically going to populate the names and titles. I mean, Fox goes as far as it changes out logos and graphics. So the operator just says, I'm importing the block 1. And in block 1, they just say, and they know on their script that we have title 1, title 2, title 3, title 4, and they're just correct.
I could, that would be like, so cool if someone could do a instructional video on exactly how that's done. That is
past that. There may be an instructional video on our YouTube channel, which is Newtek Inc. Don Balance, who's our VP of training, does a ton of free training videos on all of our technology, and I think that there's a training video on Data Link on there, on live text with Data Link.
I think
I'll mention that though.
Yeah, and I'll go over there and look. I knew about Data Link, but I didn't understand that you could do that from a spreadsheet. And
SQL database.
I know we're getting really deep in the weeds, folks, but just what I want you to understand is what you're trying to do is with this system. At least what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reduce production cost. I'm trying to reduce the number of people that we have to take to an event or a show. So example, in this instance, everyone in the booth is on a network. I have a person that handles basically the greeter that puts people in the green room. That greeter could get the business card and could put that right in at that computer, update it, and really what would happen then is it's available. That's the power of being able to do a dynamic show, dynamic interviews. If you're pre-planned and you know who all your guests are going to be, you don't have to worry about this because you can pre-make everything, but not when you're in a situation where you have someone walk up and say, "I got this gadget. Can you have me on?" And the host gives the thumbs up, and 2 minutes, or 30 seconds later, the guest is sitting down.
Right.
You want to keep the production flowing and be able to update and have otherwise, because what do we end up with? Then we end up with a lower third for the host, but we don't have a lower third for the guest. And when you're going back and later and doing the final production on this, you've done the live stream, maybe that's the end of it. But for us, we record each one of these segments. Every time a guest comes in, we hit record, gets done, we stop recording, that segment's in the machine. And believe me, when you're going back and reviewing and trying to pump these babies out, who was that again that was sitting down there? And you have to listen to 2 minutes of video, figure, oh yeah, that's John from Acme Company, and then you got to go search that out. But if that lower third's there, you say, oh yeah, I remember who it was, and you can do the final production much faster. It's just a tip we've learned when you're when you're working on you're trying to keep expenses down this and save time. It's critical. It's just a little tricks of the trade we've learned over the years.
And that's what's great with that. By offloading that task, you can have a better show because you're focused on the guest, not trying to type while they're talking, because you can't listen if you're trying to type in their name. So your producer could just as easy as writing down who your next guest is, they could just type it into live text and then hit send, and it sends it to your TriCaster, so that when you fade up their lower third, it's their name, and their company name, and their Twitter handle, or whatever information you want on there.
So I see also there's a TriCaster Mini control surface too. It's an optional, but it looks like a smaller unit that probably gives you all those controls to fade in and pull up lower thirds and all that stuff.
It's a straightforward, simple control surface that allows you to punch your sources and transition. It doesn't have a million buttons like the one sitting on your desk, but it's portable. We actually have a bundle that I don't know if I can't remember if it's something we're phasing out, but I know we had an introductory bundle where it was the TriCaster Mini, the control surface, and a Pelican-style case that's designed for the Mini with the control surface, and it was under $10,000. So, if somebody's trying to get the control surface and they want a case, it's actually a pretty good deal to get. It's the higher-end Mini, the one with the 45 hours of storage.
Mm-hmm. Rob, having been doing this now since 5 or 6 years and doing live, I would not have. People are going to, they go, oh man, do I really want to buy that control surface? Buy it.
Yeah.
It just makes life so much easier because I can feel my way along. You can probably do this with a keyboard, but I don't have to go, keep looking down.
Yeah.
I can touch, and, obviously I've made a couple mistakes today because I'm not looking down, but you can do, really, the board helps so much more. I really can't stress how much it helps because, sometimes you're like, oops, you can hit it real quick, and, that's a delay of a second versus maybe a delay of 2 seconds of looking at the keyboard. Oh, yeah, which one was it again? So, Phil,
it's like a touch typist, once you become once you have a control surface, you can fly through it and continue to watch your monitors or look at your camera. That's why hardcore technical directors want those buttons, because they're focused on their screens and they're watching cameras and they're calling their shots, and they don't want to look at their hands, so they want that tactile interface. And the cool thing about TriCaster is we give you a choice. I mean, I have another friend named Victor Borachuk, who's one of the top TriCaster guys in the world. I mean, he does X Games and Fashion Week. He doesn't use a control surface at all. I mean, he's a keyboard mouse guy, and he's great with it. But that's what's great about the TriCaster. It's a scalable workflow. Right. Everybody has a different way they like to work, and I love a control surface. I prefer a control surface, but you don't have to have it, but I highly recommend it.
But the control surface is not a replacement for a keyboard and mouse, though. So you still have to have that as well, I would imagine, right?
Well, it's if you want to do like lower third editing, you would need the keyboard. But if you have someone that's doing that with live text, you technically
it could be two separate people, is what you're saying,
right? Or like here, now obviously the way I've got things set up here is, talk about switching. So I've got the Newtek switcher here, but
The keyboard's right there.
But
Yep.
this keyboard is not for the switcher. This is the keyboard for my computer
okay.
where I bring up screens. Now, if I was doing this all by if I had an actual person that was doing the switching full time, if I had my kid in here, they would have this and the Newtek keyboard here, which is actually over here right now that I use to edit lower thirds and stuff. But if you've got someone that can be dedicated to doing this, it would all be, it'd all be right here. Or this could be offloaded with the live text, a separate computer with the live text. It would send the lower third to and the live text is a lifesaver. That we couldn't do the show in Vegas without live text. We just couldn't do it, and not to the level of professionality, if that's a word, that one would want. So I just think I was talking with a good friend of mine who is actually a dealer, and he says, yeah, this thing is a game changer, and I'm really excited about. I don't own one yet. I haven't had the need to buy one, but like I said, I've got access to one through the friend of mine, and we're going to be exercising it in Vegas. So I guess if anyone's at the Consumer Electronics Show and you want to see one, come by our booth outside North Lobby. We're at NL4 is the actual broadcast booth, and you can find us under Tech Podcast at the show. But
so are you guys out in the foyer before you enter the show floor? Is that where y'all will be this year?
Yeah, we're in the same location.
North Hall?
Yeah, we're in the same location we've been the last 2 years.
Oh, cool.
It's a beautiful. I mean, it's so perfect.
It's a great spot. Lots of traffic going by there. It's right by where the taxis pick up people.
Yeah, the whole show walks by you. Now, we are not the Verge. The Verge obviously is 100 feet down in I think they have like a 40 by 40, and the CNET's upstairs in their little cubby hole. Kelly and her group are over in South Hall on the back wall of the entrance, which is another great location. But to be honest with you, I think I've got the best location in the spot, because I tell the people from the other events, just take a cab over, get out of the cab, and walk in, and you're here. And
that's awesome.
And when we get ready to pack up, or when we leave from the day, we just go up the escalator and go out the parking lot. And I showed this to Rob earlier. Phil, you're gonna love this. You ever park at CES? You ever have to park, or do you take a cab in?
I park. Dude, you're making me jealous. Now I'm getting really jealous. It's like a parking pass at CES is more valuable than a credential at CES. Nobody gets those.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I said, I'm like, man, it took 10 years. And yes, I got one,
Exactly. Yeah.
So
thousands of dollars of investment. Right?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. And don't get me wrong, going to any show, you have a certain amount of expense. We do it. We try to keep this is really. Let's go back and kind of talk about the story. And Phil, you can kind of talk how this is. Newtek and other companies have really radically changed the ability for producers like us to be able to do what we do. 10 years ago, on our budget, it would have been impossible to do this. 5 years ago, we started doing the show, and we've learned through time of what it takes bandwidth wise to go and do these events. And I budget every year about $20,000 for CES, and usually the expense may rise as high as $25,000 to do the whole event, post production, the whole 9 yards. But out of that event, if you think about, we'll come out of there with 250 interviews. We'll put all that content up online. We will have made at least 250 new relationships. We'll now have 250 people we can access throughout the year as their products come to market, get access to those products for review. We'll be able to drive the content that goes up online. The vendors all love and they link to. This has been part of our ongoing strategy as content creators, is that we're there to do the content, but most of the PR for the videos are done by the press and the companies themselves to do it, because I send them an email with the embed, they put it up on their website, and that's
Right.
why we've been able to do 30 to 35 million views of the produced content every year of those 250,000 videos.
That's a lot of views.
It's a lot of views, but the strategy we built over the years, we've learned the SEO tricks, we've learned the leveraging of the vendors, the PR firms. When you have the higher level, C-level folks up, what do? They go on and do a company-wide email blast. Hey, we were featured here in this video, and promote it on Twitter and put it on Google Plus. So the viability that the actual interviews generate allow us to get those sites. Now, some videos don't get very many views, but it only takes one or two to do X number of
Right.
hundreds of thousands or 200,000 views to get it. And what we find is that we don't get 35 million views in 2 weeks. We'll get 35 million views over 12 months because it's in the stack on the company's websites. I think we're the only company that goes to the level, because we have to. That's the only way we get the exposure for our advertisers. We're advertising a revenue generating network, so we got to pay for this thing, and that's how we're able to do what we do and get the exposure that we get with this content. It's a strategy that we've employed now for about 5 years. Our numbers went down just a little last year. I was concerned about the actual reach we had, but we did like 20 less videos. So I was like, okay, that probably equates to about where we should be. So, but to think about taking a mini and then being able to generate revenue that essentially pays for itself in one show, it's not even a consideration on an expenditure standpoint. It's you say, okay, yep, this is going to pay for itself.
It's so true. I mean, even the kit that I was carrying around doing all my demos with, was under $10,000 turnkey, including the lights, including the green screen, including the cameras and tripods and the cases, less than 10 grand. And so when a corporate, marketing department is looking at that, that's less than the price of producing one traditional video.
Right.
So for the price of making one single marketing video, I can now have my own television studio and broadcasting set up so that I can go live from product launches or training sessions or CEO addresses, all year long. And so, yeah, the whole justification on the cost is just, it's so in our favor that, we can't keep minis in stock.
You guys are going to laugh, and I've talked about this a couple of times, but you can't see it, but directly behind me back here is it's a rolling case. It's a 6U box. And 3 years ago, I was doing an incredible amount of travel. I was on the road 30, 60 days a year. So I was taking my studio with me. Now, there was not a mini at that time. I had to build my own Mac Pro.
Right.
Some product from a company called Blackmagic Design. Some audio interface stuff from a company called Motu. And you just put it on some software from another company. And, there's behind me is about a $5,000 rig. And
Right.
So that's the third box. And reason why it's the third box is because when it gets shipped, I have to check it in the airlines. And I was always like holding my breath as it came off the from baggage claim. I flew to Chicago once, lost a lid.
Oh, wow.
Flew to Dallas one time, lost the back of the box. And here's all this stuff exposed. And my heart is in my throat, and I'm looking, okay, what's damaged now? I only suffered one broken button in all those calamities.
Right.
I got a broken case one time. I actually had to order a case while I was on the road just to get the unit home.
Well, another aspect is the fact that you had to check it as luggage. The fact that you can put that Mini in a backpack and carry it on as carry-on, it really is a game changer. I was talking to one press outlet in Los Angeles, and they said our biggest challenge is shipping gear into Canada for shows.
Yep.
Even when it's shipped into a shipping box as luggage, it's treated way differently than something carried in a backpack. And they say, oh, this is a portable PC type system.
Right.
And you just, he said, you're not filling out all this paperwork.
Custom stuff.
It is a game changer.
So when I saw the Mini, I'm like, man, that can go right in the overhead.
I do it every week.
Guys, let's talk about the physical dimensions of this thing. I mean, it's hard to tell from the pictures what the physical size of this thing is, but I was just looking it up here. It's like 4.5 inches wide by, it's like 9 inches tall or something like that. And
it's
so
tiny.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, it only weighs like 9 pounds or something like that.
It's like a toaster, isn't it?
It's less than 10 pounds. That's funny that you say it's like a toaster because, a little history there with Newtek.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's under 10 pounds and it's so small. I mean, I didn't even have a large backpack. I was carrying an OGO backpack and I didn't even buy the big one. And in that backpack, I could fit the Mini. I had the keyboard. I had another laptop that I wanted to use for IVGA. I had a folding monitor and then 2 cameras and the cables. In one backpack.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's like 7 inches wide by 4.5 inches deep, by 9 inches tall.
Yeah.
So yeah, tiny.
Yeah, I just
smaller than a human head.
But Rob, do you know why I stopped doing the video on the road? And I was carrying a green screen with me too.
Yeah.
There's a little pop-up thing that would go behind me. Is it just, I was wrecking stuff. It was like I figured I was at some point this thing was going to get lost and destroyed, and I'd be out my investment. So I've used this little portable rig to do. I here in Hawaii I do from time to time, and I do it mostly non-professionally. I'll do streaming events for the robotics competitions, and so I'll go in with that. But it's quite frankly, my setup time is not what Phil's talking about. I got to drag cables and I got to make sure all the converters are working, and it's not super clean. And I have to have 2 laptops to do that right. I have to have the one that's basically running the interface to switch the cameras, and I have to have another that's actually doing the recording. So it's just it's just a no-brainer to me. It really is from a production standpoint, and I think what they're going to, I think if you guys aren't seeing it already, I'm sure people are probably going to be starting new businesses with the portability of this thing because, you can go in you can be very competitive when you walk in with a backpack and maybe something underneath your hand, and set something up and be rocking and rolling quickly.
Watch my video. I set it all up in less than 5 minutes. What was really cool is I did the goal was to set up the entire studio with green screen, with lights, with cameras, with all the monitor, TriCaster, fully functional, ready to stream in under 5 minutes. I can do it in 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, it is crazy, and that's not me rushing. If you watch the video, I was not rushing. I can do it leisurely in 3.5 minutes, and it really, as you said, the flexibility and portability really allow you to do more coverage that you would never have done. It's like some shows, it doesn't warrant you getting there a day early and setting up for 6 hours and using the labor that you would have to use. But if I can set it up in a conference table in 4 or 5 minutes, you're now a commando strike force of television production.
And here's another thing, too, to think about going to trade shows. The bigger you are, the more scrutiny you have upon, for better words, the unions. Luckily, I'm a CA-sanctioned booth, and I don't have to use union labor. But if you aren't a sanctioned booth and you go into an event and you are putting up lights and you're bringing in a big box and you're hooking cables up, you're going to have the Teamsters over there saying, "What are you doing?"
Well, I've got a great story to share with you. When I was on my press tour, we were meeting with like mainstream press, so like Wall Street Journal and Fast Company and various magazines. And one of the journalists, when we would set up these demos, we wouldn't tell them what they were going to see. This is before the Mini came out, and we would just say it's something cool. It's going to be groundbreaking. Where should we meet? Well, one of the journalists in San Francisco said, well, let's meet in the lobby of the Grand Hyatt. And I was like, all right, or the Hyatt Regency, whatever the hotel is down there. So we show up a little early because we're like, where are we going to do this? We don't have a conference room. And so I went and found in the lounge, I found an electrical plug in the ground, and it was open lounge, like right in the lobby of the hotel. And so I said, all right, guys, we're going to do this. I told our publicist, I said, we're going to do this demo here in this lobby. We're going to set everything up. We're not going to turn the lights on until the very last minute because it's going to draw attention to us. And so this journalist shows up. We start setting it up on this little round cocktail table. And we turn on the lights, and I could see the people at the front desk kind of looking over at us, wondering what we're doing. And I said, you know what? We're going to be in and out before they call security. That's our goal. And we did. We did the full demo. I had one of our guys stand in front of the green screen and do a virtual set, and we did all of that. And by the time security was walking over, we were walking out.
It's nothing more intimidating to have the Teamster leader come and said, "Stop work."
That's true.
And he's got 40 people with him. You come in with something like this, you're going to like, what is that? Okay, forget it. That's a computer. And they're not even going to take a second look.
It's true.
And I can't stress, when I roll in with 23 boxes to set up a studio, that like, okay, what you got there? And so this is one of the reasons, obviously I don't have a union problem at CEA. I don't want to say I do, but you will if you go into an event and you have a bunch of gear and you roll in and you start stringing cables everywhere. And usually you can get away with a small setup, which this is, and have a very professional production. Your bigger challenge may be finding internet at one of these events.
Yep.
I will have to, speaking of internet, at LVCC, the internet situation has changed dramatically, and I'm going to have to it's hard for me to do this, but I have to give kudos to Cox. The internet's reasonable, number one, as compared to what it used to be. Number two, it works, and we were really thrilled last year with their taking over of that infrastructure over there. But, so that speaking of streaming, our folks, the best connection is a hardwired connection. Have you guys tested it using wireless? Can you do you hook it to a MiFi? Is that possible?
We, from a TriCaster's perspective, we don't care what the internet is as long as it's fast enough.
Yep.
But we do have clients that are using, LTE cellular modems and things like that. And I've even done it. It's kind of like, there was a time in television when if it was compressed, it was horrible. Now it's like, as long as you can get a signal, it's probably going to be good enough. So like, let's say you're at an event, because the TriCaster can record. Let's say all you can get is an LTE modem and your viewers can watch live, you're still archiving in HD.
Right.
And so all of your uploads after the fact will all be HD. So, Newtek really doesn't care what the connection is as long as you're happy with it and you can get enough bandwidth from that particular venue.
Yeah, and that's, for anyone that's going to a venue, this is something you should always really research well before you get there.
So does that stream adjust to the available bandwidth of the wireless connection, or?
Well, when you set up your stream in TriCaster, in the streaming interface, you can tell it what bit rate to stream at. So normally what you would do is you would go in, do a bandwidth test, and say, I've got XYZ amount of upload, and then I set my bit rate for the webcast in TriCaster accordingly.
Rob, when we got to Vegas last year, we had only in years past pushed at 640 by 360 at a lower bit rate because that's all we could get out of the system. Yeah. Last year, we bumped it right up to HD, 720p, at the lowest level setting, got great images, it was holding fine, everything was looking good. I said, well, let's go ahead, let's see what happens next, and we pushed it to the mid-range setting where I really like to be streaming at from a quality standpoint. You don't have to, because the quality is good at any one of those levels. But what we found was this, based on what we had paid for bandwidth, they delivered, and I was able to push at a fairly hefty rate. But if the situation had went south, I could have downshifted. I have to stop the stream to change the setting level, but that is really 5 mouse clicks or something like that. It's it's like click, 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 click. You're done, and you hit stream. You're live again. So, yeah, it's not a thing. And even here in Hawaii, for years, the bandwidth was limited, and I was only pushing 640 by 360, just because that's all we could handle. But like you said, it's the right now the master recording is going up in HD, and once we're done here today, I'll have. I mean, it's a big file because of the quality, and you can set the recording at a different level too. Sure. Based upon what you want to have as your master. And matter of fact, you don't even have to make one master. You can make it, and then probably on the Mini too. I can record the MOV, MP, at least on my system, MP4, MOV, and an MP3 all at the same time. What are the output?
In the Mini, it's locked to a certain recording codec, but you can do ISO recording on the second level Mini, because you could do 4 channels of ISO recording. So you can record your program out in 3 cameras, or program out clean, and then 2 cameras. But you have on the second level of the Mini, you can do 4 channels of ISO recording.
And for those of you that don't know what ISO recording is, that is basically all the channel inputs that are recorded. So you have a master of each. You may not be switched to that camera or source, but it's being recorded if you need to go in and mix match later if you want to do that level of post-production. I love the ISO stuff. I've used it, but be honest with you, because I can simply do this, I'm 90% of the time I'm produced. I'm done when we hit stop.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of ISO quarter uses on shows like Jimmy Osmond, from the Osmond brothers. He does a lot of shows for PBS with TriCaster, and he did one for Jerry Lewis. It was like his 87th birthday, and it's aired on PBS 500 times. So the concept is they switch the show as if it's live. So they record the clean line cut. And then, like, Tim Conway surprised them and showed up. And he was just sitting in the crowd, so then they could go back and scan the ISO recorded files to say, anybody get Tim Conway on camera accidentally so we can use him in cutaways?
Yeah.
And so then they go back in and they just kind of sweeten up that master edit. But it really depends on the type of the show.
Yeah.
But that's the cool part about TriCaster, is it's so flexible. You can do a show where you're like, we're only going to record the master line cut, or something like a Jerry Lewis special for PBS, where you want to record, all the different cameras and have some flexibility to go back and cut to some different things.
What we've done is I basically during an interview, my TriCast director had to, for better words, make a mad dash to the men's room. So we were left with a single shot, but because the product camera and everything else was going ISO, I was able to later say, no big deal. We did a little adjustment during the interview, but in post, I was able to say, I've got that segment. I didn't lose anything, and it also that's how I've used it, is to overcome switching mistakes. Let's just put it that way.
Yep, that's a very common use.
So I also wanted to ask about the whole virtual sets. I'm looking at your website, and I see, there's some pretty cool looking virtual sets that you guys are building. Is that a library that's getting larger and larger? And I even see some holographic virtual sets. Could you talk about that stuff a little bit too?
Yeah, our virtual sets, it comes with around 20 virtual sets.
Okay.
And there's an add-on for TriCaster called Virtual Set Creator. And you can actually create your own virtual set. It comes with various backgrounds, and you can add in a monitor or a desk and move things around, change out the picture that's behind the window, and do all kinds of stuff. But it comes with 20 pre-built virtual sets. And then the holographic virtual sets are a cool technology we developed, where basically you take a panoramic photo on your mobile device or high-end panoramic photo system, but it could just be your iPhone or your Android. Do a panoramic photo, import that, and it maps it into the inside of a sphere, and you can go into our virtual set, and you could be anywhere. I mean, the demo I've been doing, we were in the courtyard of the Eiffel Tower and having somebody standing there, and then you pan down from the Eiffel Tower onto the talent. But so it really does open up some cool doors. One of our friends, Tom Green, who's a TriCaster user, was joking with me. He said, next time I'm at Jimmy Kimmel's show, I'm just going to do a panoramic photo of his set, and then I'm going to broadcast live from Jimmy Kimmel's set until I get a cease and desist letter. He was just joking about that. But, really you could do, a panoramic and do that from anywhere.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
One thing I should have shown earlier, and I haven't, was the actual picture of the interface. And let me bring that up now.
For anybody that uses a TriCaster, that looks very familiar.
Yeah, I mean...
you've got your 4 live cameras, you've got a program and a preview out, you've got your mixer section where you can punch your cameras or your sources, you've got your T-bar, your effects, your overlays, and then at the bottom you have all of your modules like your DDRs or your stills. But you'll notice in that interface it also supports pan, tilt, zoom cameras.
Yep.
Because the Mini can control your PTZ cameras. So it is definitely a robust system.
And I've got a PTZ camera here that I have never hooked up, and it's just pure laziness on myself. But it sits there, and I have a separate controller over there for that. It's kind of stupid when the TriCaster will actually do that. I could just monitor it. I could just do it right here instead of having to.
You can save your presets for different shots, and with a single click of a button, you can go to the various presets from your PTZ. It is. As you were talking about, with one of the benefits of the TriCaster is that it allows you to have a smaller, more nimble team. With PTZ cameras, it allows you to be even a smaller and more nimble team than that.
Yep. And some of those, and to be honest with you, the the one that I have up here is an SD PTZ, but the HD PTZs are incredible. I mean, they're as good as some of the most high-end pro cameras. So I think a lot of television studios are using them now. They don't even use a camera operator anymore. There's got a guy somewhere running a joystick with the.
What's cool about the presets in the TriCaster with your PTZs is you could have, let's say you have 3 different shows you do. And in show 1, your camera setup is you with a close-up, a wide shot of the studio, and then a close-up of a product like display area. So every time you load that show in, your cameras it automatically configures your cameras. So when you go to show 2, it could be guest 1, guest 2, and then a wide shot. But you go into that project for that show, and all of a sudden your cameras are already pre-configured. It really is spectacular and super simple to do.
Well, I'm really excited about what you guys have done here with the Mini. I'm looking forward to, I guess for a better word, getting my hands on it and trying it when we go to Vegas. And the cool thing is, no training required. My entire team has been TriCast users for a while, and that's one thing. Once you learn one, it's like you can go any way on scale on using any of the products. The interface is and to be honest with you, my kids come in here sometimes and play, and it can't be any simpler.
Yeah.
What's great about the simplicity of TriCaster, the focus becomes telling a good story.
Right.
You don't get bogged down in being a technician. You get to be a creator. Sure, there's a technical side, but you really can focus on doing your interviews and telling a good story and making sure you have compelling content and not fight against a bunch of buttons.
Yep.
And that's really what we wanted to do. And so, in this democratization of television, people with good stories and good ideas win, not just the people that have $1 million to spend on a studio. So, and sure, you can spend some money, but really it comes down to good storytelling, good content, good information, and may the best man win.
So what I want to do, just as a quick point of reference here. If any of you are looking at a Mini, I really recommend that you go to the Newtek website at newtek.com, and they've got a place there where you can find a dealer in your area, and you can go in and actually, in most cases, get some hands-on on this thing and touch it and try it. I really recommend, personally recommend the dealer route. You can go on some of the online places and buy stuff. You may save a few bucks. Generally, you won't. But if you go to that dealer, you get that hands-on relationship. They have an investment with you, and you've got a guy you can call locally, and you can go in the store if you've got a problem, or wherever their location may be. I really recommend the dealer route, and you can find a Newtek dealer on the Newtek website. But there's probably a Mini in my future. I've got to decide when to do that execution, and if I can do enough sideshows. I'm really excited about the. Rob, it's really when you're a geek guru and you have a little bit of a how should we say it? You love to spend money on this kind of stuff. It can be kind of dangerous product to buy,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you're like, I want it, and then you look at the budget, say, have to wait.
Have to wait.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like in the case of the Mini, the prices keep coming down. So.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good kind of lead into the next question I wanted to ask you, Phil. Is as we see, there's a miniaturization happening via the name Mini. What do you see if you look out a couple of years into the future? Is a Newtek going to come out with like maybe something that's even a super mini type of recording device, streamer that's even smaller than this one, that maybe has fewer inputs, but could be getting down into the even lower price points? Or what do you think as you look into the future? What's the next big thing? I'm not saying that you need to tell us what your next product is, but what do you think that the trends in the industry are moving towards?
Well, I think the trends in the industry are moving towards more people doing more video. I mean, if the cable networks aren't careful, they're going to go the way of the newspaper. And, the power is in the hands of the people with the ideas. As far as development stuff at Newtek, our engineers think so far outside the box, you can't even see the box anymore. And so, I don't put anything past them, but, I have no idea where they're going with it.
And, Rob, it's kind of funny. They're as good as Apple is keeping a secret.
We have to be. That's one of the benefits of being a private company. And I hate to do this to you guys, but I'm going to have to go in just a minute.
Yep, sure.
But before I do, if you guys follow me on any of my social sites, I take a lot of selfies, right? I'm out of control. I'm worse than a teenage kid, right? So I have to do a selfie, and here we go.
Oh,
this
nice.
is my selfie. So I want y'all to look at the camera. At my camera here, and if you want to point at the camera, it would be great, because I always do that. Here we go. There we go. You're in my selfie now. Congratulations.
And Phil, I know you got to go, but I know you're a musician. Why don't you tell folks about your music side too?
Yeah, please. It's my music is available on iTunes. It's country. It's philipnelsonmusic.com. But there's a movie coming out. I was in a movie last year called My Dog the Champion. It's available on Netflix, and one of my songs is in it. It actually stars Lance Henriksen, who, if anybody liked the movie Aliens, he was Bishop in Aliens, so he's pretty cool. He's also on the TV show Millennium. But coming out next year is another movie called The Adventures of Pepper and Paula, and a few of my songs are in that movie. But what's more, I have blackmail material, because they asked me to be in the movie on stage playing. And I'm wearing like a blue fringe shirt, and I'm Doc Dakota. So what was funny is when we were on the movie set, my band shows up, and they didn't tell me that it's Doc Dakota and the Burglar Band. So my band is all these cool dudes from Austin. One of them has a huge beard, and they're just cool guys. And we show up, and they hand them burglar outfits to wear.
Oh no!
And it's like the jailbird stripes from, Oh Brother, Where Art There? And they look at me and like, why did you get us into this? And so now my band is in the movie as the burglar band wearing like convict outfits. So be looking for the Adventures in Pepper and Paula. There actually are probably some clips on it online if you want to see some clips of it. And my music, I think, is in those trailers. So yeah, I appreciate anybody checking it out. It's philipnelsonmusic.com, and you can download my album Adventures from the Road on iTunes.
Very, very
and
cool.
make fun of me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, thanks for spending time with us here. And I know you got a Christmas holiday party to get ready for. And but everyone, more information, go to newtek.com.
And I think next time you have me on the show, you need to demand to our PR team that I be in the studio in person, because Hawaii sounds pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome.
I'll take one for the team.
You're welcome to come out anytime.
Yeah.
And actually, you'll be able to see what you can do in a 10 by 12 studio.
That's why I need to be there. I need to come check it out in person. But I will see you guys in Vegas for CES, and hopefully we can hang out and visit again.
All right, Phil. Take care.
Okay. Take
See
care.
you later.
Phil. Yep.
He is definitely a good CRO.
Yes, CR.
Sorry.
He is a good CRO. That's
Hopefully
for sure.
I didn't dominate there, Rob. I apologize. I just
No. I mean, you and Phil are the experts in the whole TriCaster world. I don't own a TriCaster, so I've only been observing.
and I really think at some point, and let's see if I can get the right camera shot here. Okay, so let's use one of those fancy features of screen and screen.
Yep.
I actually, people beat me up all the time because I underutilize the power of this thing right here. I really do. I underutilize everything it can do, and I hate to say it, but you know why?
Well, you're trying to create the content plus manage it, and I mean that's what I think is the reason.
Busy, and I'm just it's horrible. It really is, and I get beat up by my friend Don all the time saying you should do this and do that. How come you're not doing this and using that feature or that? And I've tried to do virtual sets here, but my challenge in this studio, the way it's set up, the virtual set stuff is fantastic, but it's better when you
have more room, I would think.
Well, let me go back. This right here really prevents me from doing green screen right.
Yeah, sure.
Because if I do green screen right, I have to drape that camera. I drape all that. Would make it in the shot, and it just and to put it in this room is painful. To do it best would be in the garage. Just have a single camera in the garage and a green screen drape and me sitting on a stool. But
I think you need more room behind you.
Yeah.
I think is what it really comes down to. I mean, that's totally. I mean, to take advantage of those virtual sets, you need some room to move around.
Yeah, because they make them big. They look like you're in a big room. And if I try to, and if the camera depth isn't right, it looks funny. But if if you've got a garage, or if you're lucky enough to be able to have access to someplace with some high walls, you can do some really out of this world stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, you can build a set. I could buy the virtual set application, and keyword there is buy. Buy that virtual set application and build a set that would fit this motif. And it'd be, I'd like to be. It'd be really cool if we could get an astronaut to take a holograph picture at the International Space Station and send that down, and we could get that file, and that would be the ultimate virtual set.
And
Kevin there, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and they are facing. We know there's some other products on the market, but they are. Most of the companies are in catch-up mode. They're always trying to catch up. That they do 75% of the solution. And it's they're just like. But Newtek keeps kind of moving the ball forward.
They're the Kleenex of their industry. I
Yeah.
mean, of doing this. I mean, all the big TV networks are using them. I mean, everybody's
Yep.
using
Yep.
TriCasters. I mean,
And
that's just
and
very few people are using anything else these days.
one thing I would think is, we hit upon it just a little bit, is about the price.
Yeah.
I think the $6,000 for the base unit is going to be a stretch for most people.
Yeah.
But if you're going to build a system, you're going to have $4,000 or $5,000 into this thing already. I had hoped, what I really think the sweet spot is, and I think with these things they would never keep them on the shelves, because let's be frank, that box, their cost on that,
It's not that much.
is not that much. Their engineering is where the cost has come in. They probably have got 1,500, 2,000 in that box, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It depends on, no one's ever done a breakdown of a Mini. But if they could get that price in and around $4,000, I think that would I think they would really do it. But they've got to make money, got to keep their company moving, and I don't know how much, and they got dealers commission to pay, so you understand why it's $6,000. There has to be enough fruit left on the vine to keep the company moving forward. So
Yeah, I think it depends on who they're targeting as their customer, and
Right.
that's kind of what my question of Phil was at the end was, what is the next box? I mean, that's going to reach even a larger market, and maybe
Yeah.
they don't want to reach too much larger of a market. They want to reach a market that's highly profitable for
Yeah.
them, and I think that's what they're doing with this
Yep.
TriCaster Mini, and I think that TriCaster Mini is going to erode the business that they created for themselves for the TriCaster 40 that they created.
Right. Oh, I'm
You
sure.
know, they're probably going to have to discontinue that model.
Well,
Uh,
but also the 40 meets a little different market. It's got little different inputs.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
there's customers for each of those. Just like, but there's not a lot of 865 customers. Now, their other box, their one that's like the next level up.
Yeah.
That, I think that's the one Leo uses. That is a pretty incredible machine. But even Leo, what they do.
Yeah.
Yes, this 865 is pretty powerful.
Is all you really need.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And, again, there's buttons on here I've never pushed. So.
But it does seem like a smaller box. I mean, even smaller than what he had there. With the Mini.
Yeah.
There's a big market
Oh,
for
there's a
something that's smaller.
huge
That's
market.
like maybe 3 inputs
Yep,
and
yep.
some webcam
Yep.
plugins. That really get down to the video podcaster level.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
completely.
But do they want to go there? And I that's a natural next step here. And I've been wondering when these platforms are going to be able to support USB 3 as
Right.
an input. They all don't want to do it for some reason, and I don't understand why.
Well, I think too, you really, and let's be frank. People will say, "Well, I built this system for this much." I
Yeah.
think if they're honest and tell you exactly how much they've spent on building a live set,
Hmm.
you're going to find that they are going to be very close to this Mini price point. They're going to do it, get the cables, get everything hooked up, and then are they going to have this seamless production interface? And oftentimes, no. Some of that's kind of kludgy. What the folks at Wirecast have done are great. I own a Wirecast software. I love what they do. But if you go 1, 2, 3 cameras, you're going to need a lot of machine to do that. It's, don't get me wrong, it's a great product. I've used it a lot. And it's what I used on the road. But, this Mini thing is, boy, it's highly, because for me, this is what it boils down to. And so there's going to be some naysayers out there. To me, time is money. Time is money. I mean, if I can figure a way to save an hour on my production,
Hmm.
or even 30 minutes over 1,000 episodes,
Yeah.
that's worth the extra money to buy the product that
Saves your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Saves
another
your-
thing too is that their support, great support. When I had the 860, I had some issues. There was a problem with the box, and I just sent an email to support. Within about 24 hours, that box was on the way back to San Antonio, and a new box was on the way in. And when they sent me a replacement, they didn't send me a refurb. They sent me a brand new machine. It was coming out of the shrink wrap, not a scratch on it. And there was no credit card on file for the exchange. So they are really good about supporting their product line. And then when they introduce stuff, they come in with introductory pricing. They have a trade-up program usually. So once you get into the ecosystem, I started with the broadcast unit, and basically
You move up, right?
yeah, you move up, and your initial investment is to get in the door. And what I did, this is even more crazy. I bought a broadcast unit from a dealer that was getting rid of it on the East Coast. Got an incredible deal on that. Got that box. Like 3 months later, they came out with a next level broadcast. I said, "Oh, let me upgrade," and the upgrade price was cheap, in retrospect. And so I upgraded to that level, and then I made you have to send the box that you own. Well, actually, yeah, you have to send the box that you own back, and they send you a new box. You get the upgrade, and that's how the upgrade thing works.
So there must be a pretty significant aftermarket for TriCasters then.
You don't find a lot. You can go on eBay and find some, but people get them and they run them till they run them into the ground. I think.
Yeah, but if you trade one in so you can upgrade, those must be sold somewhere in a used marketplace, right?
I don't think
No?
so.
Really?
I think they bring those in, and I don't know what.
Refurbish them or something?
Maybe they use them for. I'm speculating that their trade-in model is a way for them to replenish their repair supplies. That's my guess. Because they support stuff forever. So, if they, how do you do a lifetime buy of a certain part that's good? Because you know how technology moves.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? You put so many spares in, and then when you get ready to upgrade, you do a great trade-in product, so all the stuff comes back. And if you're going in for a repair, most people that get a repair don't care if they put a new card in, long as they put a card in that works, and you're not paying anything for the repair. They put the repaired item in, or put, maybe one of these trade-in units, they take the card out and stick it in. So they and this is my prediction, because you never see that stuff. It never goes up on eBay, ever.
Oh.
And they support stuff forever.
Yeah, but isn't there an expectation that, if you send something in and it gets repaired or whatever, that you're getting a new component versus a used component?
I don't know. If you're not paying for a repair, if that repair's free,
interesting. Yeah.
I might be wrong. They may stick brand new stuff in. But this is Todd's speculation on how they're able to sustain.
I mean, it would make sense. I mean, if these things are being, you can trade them in, and there's no place that is visible that these things are being sold unless they're sent out to dealers, and dealers sell them, in retail locations.
They don't sell. Dealers don't sell refurbs.
Oh, okay.
Dealers only maybe sell the unit that they bought as a dealer unit, and whatever they get for a discount, and they're able, when they don't need that model anymore, I'll see them listed as a dealer unit.
Or there's just so much margin in these things that they just absorb it. I
don't know. That I don't know. You go look at the price on an 865. I'm going to tell you straight up that the computer that's running this show right now has probably got a couple $1,000s worth of parts in it. It's got a custom board, so maybe it's a little more. But you look at that price of an 865, and there's
it's like $35,000,
right. And there's some good money they're making, but they've got a huge engineering team, and it's not necessary. You're paying for the technology is what you're paying for. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're already long, so I get actually 12 minutes to have another meeting, so we got to wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
No show next week.
Well, unless you wanted to, bring in two guests next week. It's one option. I could help find some guests for you
But-
potentially.
Potentially, yeah, we might be able to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
matter of fact, maybe we'll let you know. Maybe there will be a show, or maybe I'll arrange a couple of folks to be on as well. No, guess I can go solo, can I?
I guess you could. I know it's hard to think of that,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not like you never go solo.
Yeah,
or anything
never,
like that, right?
never at all. But hey, if you got comments on today's show, it's Todd or Rob at newmediashow.com. And if you need a mini, email me. I'll put you in contact with a dealer. Okay, I've got the guy. Matter of fact, the guy is the gadget professor. All right, he's a dealer for Newtek, Don Bain, the gadget professor here at the Geek News Central Network. All right, just a little info. He's restricted on where he can sell some things because of the dealer clauses, but he'll get you in the right. We'll get you hooked up.
Todd, what's wrong with us? We didn't talk about podcasting at all this week.
Oh, and we got to talk about it real quick before we go. The New Media Expo.
Yeah.
Get your tickets. You're going to want to be there because you're going to be able to touch like at NAB. Newtek has this huge 40 by 50 booth.
Yeah.
Live streams there. Wirecast is there. Everyone that is in this space is at that show. You can talk to people about mics, mixers. You'll see stuff that you'll like, oh, man, I'm going to hurt my credit card when I get home. We want you to come to the New Media Show held in conjunction with the National Association of Broadcaster Trade Show. And
go to the podcast awards, too.
That's right. You're right. Go to the podcast.
That's going to be a big event there. It's going to be on the main stage of, where the keynotes for CES were typically given. So newmediashow.com. There's a banner on the website. Follow that over to the website at NMX Live, and definitely use the promo code NewMedia when you check out to get a discount. Save some money on those tickets. We want you to be there, and maybe Rob and I will be at the show. You can come hang out and chit chat with us and hit us up. We're fully accessible, obviously, but. And we may be doing a episode of the New Media Show at that show too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so we want you to come out and hang out with us at the New Media Expo. And Rick and the team are working feverishly to get things going there. And we actually had a meeting with them earlier this week about the podcast awards. So things are progressing. I think a January 15th kickoff of nominations. It's going to be here very crazy to get it ready to go. But January 15th is the date. But all right.
You are going to be a busy guy, Todd.
No, New Media Expo is going to be busy. I am going to be doing.
But you're going to be helping them a little bit. I think, right?
Yeah. But I'm going to be doing this show, and I'm going to be doing stuff at our booth. And we're going to be there in a booth talking about podcasting with everyone. PowerPress 6 is finally, 99.9% done. It will. Please, Lord. It will release sometime next week. Angela says, I got to get this off my out or my boss is going to fire me. And I kind of laughed because, he was referring to me in the same phone call. So, PowerPress 6 is so close. But it's
so will it be out by the end of next week, or is it still further out than that?
Yes, it will be come hell or high water.
Well, you could have that as a topic on next week's show.
Yeah, and matter of fact, maybe we'll bring Angela on and talk about it. The migration stuff, we are going to make it so easy for someone to migrate off any service and come support our product line and support us making salary. People are going to be very jealous of this migration tool. I mean, very, very jealous, and I'm sure it's actually going to piss some people off. But we don't. I never piss people off. So
of course not. Never, Todd. You're so calm. And
we did have a good call with the Internet Interactive Advertising Bureau (IAB) this week with the podcast committee too. So that was a big call. Lots of discussions about definitions, about measurement. Some little heated conversations here or there, but a lot of work yet to be done on the document that is the initial white paper for podcasting. But
I think we're a long ways away from a standard.
Yeah. That's like stage 2, 3, 4. So Get a bunch of people on a conference call talking about standards, and so I think we're on track, and it's being moderated by the IEB folks, and they're very professional, and I'm excited to see where ultimately this ends up. It's going to help podcasters. It definitely is. It's all about bringing more money into space and tapping the billions of dollars that are being spent in radio and television. I'd love to have just millions of dollars being spent in the podcasting space, let alone billions. But it is $1 billion industry.
Billions, not such a bad goal.
Not at all. That's I like the B word myself too. But anyway, lots going on, and I think we need to get out of here, because if not, I'm going to be late to my next meeting. We're actually meeting with the producers for the Consumer Electronics Show. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right, folks, and newmediashow.com. Again, Todd or Rob at newmediashow.com is the email address. If you want to be a guest, holler out at us as well. We're willing to take those types of submissions in consideration. Rob, have a great week next week being off, and then we'll let you guys know on the website what the schedule is going to be.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, until next time.
Great.
See you later. Aloha.
Bye-bye.
YouTube, you're still here. I'm pressing buttons. Lots of buttons to push when we're shutting down the show. Oh, we had a pretty big group. And we're in the chat room. Thanks for being here, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.